we've got many exports. We already export products like coal to some of these countries. We already export fruit. We already export a number of agricultural products. And they export technology to us. And we want to broaden it. So that we are pleased with, because through the African Continental Free Trade Area, we are able to cooperate with all our other sister countries on the continent, which is a market of 1.4 billion people. So in the end, we have great complementarities. We do not compete with any of the three countries that we visited. In fact, in fact, we found that we complement one another. We depart with one another. We depart with warm hearts, having been leaders meeting in Johannesburg in November. And for that we have invited those three countries that we visited. We've been the G20 in South Africa as having to address challenging quality continues to be promoted. And to this end, we even asked Professor Joseph Stiglitz, a Nobel laureate, to do a study on inequality in the world and present a report at the G20 summit. Now, in our view, this is going to be a mega report led by Professor Stiglitz, together with a number of experts of high standing. We felt that we needed to look at the issue of inequality and the impact that it has. And we do so as South Africa advisedly, because our struggle was against inequality. We struggled to have equality treatment of all the people of South Africa. So we decided that we should make this a key theme, so the world wakes up and looks at the incidence of inequality. From a historical point of view, we continue to struggle with inequality in South Africa, and an inequality that was given rise to or birthed in South Africa during colonialism and during apartheid, when people were driven into poverty, when they were dispossessed, when their land was taken away and their assets were stripped from them. So for us, it's been important, therefore, to address the issue of inequality. The other important theme that we have put on the agenda of the world is the issue of solidarity. This is an important value that we believe that the world must now deal with. Solidarity also has to deal with inclusivity. It does not deal with exclusion. We do this also from our own history, where the powerful excluded everyone else and where there was no solidarity. And we now say that there should be solidarity. The powerful must support the weak. The rich must support the poor. The healthy must support the unhealthy people. And we need to act in solidarity. And we saw this in full play in our own history, when the world pledged solidarity with South Africa as we fought against the evil system of apartheid. And we believe that at a political level, it is also important that we should be able to support those who are suffering, those who are going through challenges. And this is clearly exhibited through our support for the people of Gaza. And that for us is solidarity. And we believe that there needs to be a sense of solidarity where the peoples of the world help one another to achieve humanity ends and equality. The other important theme that we came up with was sustainability, that the world needs to move towards sustaining everything that we do. Economic growth must be sustainable. Dealing with climate change must be sustainable. And that is precisely what we have put forward to the world as the key themes. Now, there are those who are opposed to this. They are opposed to diversity, they are opposed to inclusion, and they are opposed to equity. And we believe that the three themes that we put on the table of the world are key and important, as they will be able to lead to the development of the peoples of the world in many, many ways. We've identified a number of priorities for the G20. And there are 4 priorities that we singled out, which we were also able to address to the leaders here in ASEAN. The first one has to do with how we should get the world to come up with solutions of addressing the issue of recovery from climate change damage. Many countries, and some of them who are not even responsible for the climate damage that has taken place, continue to bear the brunt of climate damage, as in floods, as in droughts, as in fires, and other forms of devastation. And some of these repeat themselves year after year. We have 2 regions in our country where every year, more or less the same time of the year, around this time in January, the floods damage infrastructure, that destroy people's homes on an annual basis. So what we seek to do is to rebuild. We rebuild the infrastructure, people's homes. The following year, exactly the same thing happens in the same area. And we felt that we need to address this. I was talking to the Prime Minister of Canada last night, and when I informed him about this, he said, yes, they also have fires on a repeated basis, year in and year out, in the same areas. And of course, South Africa has developed an expertise on dealing with fire. We often send people to Canada to go and help them with their fires. We felt that it's important for the world to address the issue of financing recovery and come up with innovative solutions, be it insurance, be it soft funding, concessional funding that can be put on the table by either your development finance institutions, the multilateral institutions, so as to help poor countries to address the issue of recovery from climate change damage. The first time it's been addressed, but as South Africa, because we have experienced it, we felt it's important that it should be put on the world agenda. The second one is just about financing climate change and how we would like those countries that have contributed much to climate change to live up to their commitments, particularly now that we're going to COP30. They've made commitments, and we would like the climate financing to be upscaled in a much more exponential manner, so that those countries that are most affected are able to access climate finance, particularly those countries that are now moving towards a just energy transition. As they transit from fossil fuel generation and go into renewables, they should transit in a way that they do not leave their people behind. The third area has to do with financial sustainability, particularly for countries that are heavily laden with debt. And that we should address the issue of debt, cost of debt. Many countries in the global south are paying far much more than countries in the global north for their debt. Debt for countries in the north is much cheaper than debt cost for countries in the global south. And we think this is a huge injustice because many countries spend much more of their financial resources financing debt rather than paying for education, for health, and for infrastructure and development. And we do believe that this needs to be addressed. The final thing that we've put on the table as a priority is the issue of critical minerals. And simply put, we say that many countries in the global south, particularly on the African continent, are well endowed with critical minerals. Many countries that are more developed set up processes just to extract those minerals, rock, soil, and dust, and take it off to their locales. And we now say that we want those minerals to be processed in countries of origin, next to the places where they are extracted, so that the communities from where those minerals come from should benefit from the minerals that Providence has endowed them with. And we do believe that there needs to be proper critical minerals governance. There needs to be norms and standards that are put in place. And there needs to be a commitment to invest in the processing of minerals close to where the minerals are extracted. So those are our key priorities which we have shared with various countries here in Southeast Asia, and we're now going to have those issues properly discussed and debated at the G20. We have been making quite a lot of progress in the various 130 meetings that we've been holding throughout the year, leading various countries, and we've had great success in getting a number of countries to reach consensus on the various themes as well as the priorities that we have set out for ourselves. So our visit here has been very successful. We are very pleased with the way we were received and the responses that we have also been given in terms of our ambitions to spread our access to the various markets here. And this has obviously been born out of our response, as many countries are responding now, to diversify away from single markets where there's a lot of risk already. If we diversify and deepen our market access with many other countries, we'll be able to have greater economic growth in South Africa, as well as economic growth in those other countries that we will deal with. Thank you very much, and I'm sure I've answered all your questions, and I have a plane to catch.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The President follows most of you and knows your work, but if you could just please remind him of your name and the media house that you represent. Before you ask your question, we'll take Lin Chu first, and then we'll go to Uliana, and then we'll go to Sudi. That's the first three we'll take.
Thank you. Your Excellency, my question is, South Africa holds the G20 presidency, and you have just concluded a visit to Vietnam ahead of this summit. How do you see the future of South Africa and Vietnam relations within the broader ASEAN-Africa partnership?
Thank you. You forgot to introduce yourself, though, Lin Chu.
Lien Chu Spudik.
Thank you. Liana?
All questions together. Okay.
No, just one question for now, just in this first
Okay.
round. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, Your Excellency. My name is Uliana. I'm from the Russian state news agency called RIA. And in September, you proposed South Africa as a venue for negotiations between Russia and the Ukraine in the ongoing peace process. So if given the opportunity to facilitate those negotiations, how would you approach organizing it? And would you be open to visiting Russia as a part of this facilitation process? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Then Sudi at the back. Oh, oh. No, Sudi, next to you. Sorry. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you so much. Shuli from Bloomberg. All my questions are on trade. To begin with, if you could give us an understanding on your negotiations with the United States and the trade deal. Where is that? And also in your three-nation tour that you spoke about and referred to, how much of trade will you get so that it offsets the trade that you're losing out because of tariffs with the United States? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, we'll just take this first three for now. Thanks.
How do we see the progress in trade between South Africa and Vietnam? Vietnam is one of those countries where we don't compete on many areas, and where we found that there's great complementarity between us, and we were able to express that quite repeatedly, even as we looked at the trade products that we exchange or trade in together. We can export to Vietnam a number of either agricultural products. We can export to Vietnam a number of manufactured products. And Vietnam has developed a keen expertise, for instance, on electric vehicles that we can export to them, as well as technological or digital products. So there is great complementarity, and we want to deepen that level of trade. At the moment, it is at a low level, and so we see that developing quite exponentially. And this is so because the commitment at government level for both of us is quite important and deep, and therefore we see growth in this area. We found that, particularly in this part of the world, when at government level there is good agreement at a bilateral level, the business community then follows. It then follows and pursues investments in each other's countries. So we look forward to that. With Uliana on the issue of the facilitation of Russian-Ukraine talks, you may recall that South Africa participated in the African Peace Mission to Russia and to Ukraine. And that gave us, as African countries, the ability to talk to both sides. And that gave South Africa even a deeper ability to talk to both President Zelensky and President Putin. I have continued to be in conversation with both of them. And as they themselves have been involved in various discussions, I've had the honor of being briefed. And I've also been able to call on both of them to rather settle their conflict through peaceful negotiations. We are involved with them at ministerial level, at official level, and even at my level. And I have said that South Africa would be willing to facilitate peace negotiations between the two of them. We are a country that has been able to engage with both of them on an honest basis, independent basis, and that has stood us in good stead because others have not even wanted to talk to either one of them, and we are one of the few countries that continue to engage with them openly and honestly. And so therefore, we do believe that we are well placed to be able to facilitate. And I have even said that we are also quite open to being the venue where those negotiations can also take place. We are very far from that conflict, but at the same time, because our foreign policy is underpinned by the need for the settlement of conflicts through negotiations, a process that we were taught by Nelson Mandela, that it's always best to settle conflicts through negotiation rather than continued war. So we remain hopeful that the conflict in that country can be resolved, and if both parties are able to commit to a negotiation process. Oh yes, but we have visited Russia. We have visited Ukraine. We will be prepared to go once again to Russia to meet with President Putin. We'll be prepared to go to Ukraine to meet with President Zelensky. President Zelensky and I have met on a number of occasions on the sidelines of the AU summit, UN summit rather, and we also received him in South Africa, where we discussed this. So President Putin and I have also met on a few occasions on the sidelines, either of the BRICS summit. It is hot. Why don't we switch on the air conditioning? I know I don't like air conditioning, but now the questions are making me sweat. So we're hoping that the trade can increase exponentially amongst our countries, so that the challenges that we are facing on a tariff basis can be offset by good trade. And if we underpin or support the agreements that we will have with the three countries through free trade agreements, it will even be better because it will enhance our trading with them. Thank you.
We'll start at the back next to Sudi and then come to the front. There's a mic. There's a mic.
My name is Manish Chand. I'm from India. This is India Rights Network. President, thanks for this big picture overview of South African G20 presidency. We are barely 1 month away from that. Now, the Global South has enjoyed primacy and ascendance over the last 4 presidencies, and Johannesburg Summit marks the end of the first cycle, beginning another cycle in the United States. Do you think the focus on Global South will continue under the next cycle of presidency, starting with the United States? And a small question on the, it looks like President Trump will not be in Johannesburg. And do you think that will impact the success of the summit and the joint declaration? And going forward, especially as US takes over the G20 presidency next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Come to the front here. Go ahead.
Thank you, President. My first question was the same about President Trump. But second question is, apart from 3 countries, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Malaysia, which country are you going to invite more? How about Ukraine?
Thank you. One last question. Okay. Okay.
My name is Marsha from
Sorry?
Key outcomes.
Key outcomes.
Okay.
Specifically related to
Oh, yeah.
Malaysia. Thank you very much for this. Mr. President, we'll take that last three. Thank you.
Oh yes, the cycle of the resurgence of the global south in the G20 process, but more also globally. I do believe that the presidency of these three global south countries, Indonesia, Brazil, India, and now the fourth one, South Africa, has really enhanced the stature, the standing, not only of those countries, but the global south. Because through their leadership and presidency of the G20, these four countries have focused on the key development issues and issues of the new era that needs to be addressed. And these are all countries that have emerged from years of colonialism and that have been developing their economies, improving their people's lives. And so therefore they have, through their presidency, put on the global agenda key development issues. And I do believe that going forward, it is going to be near impossible to see a reversal of the key issues that have been put on the global agenda by the four countries that have had the opportunity to be presidents of the G20. And what have some of those issues have been? The issue of climate change, and most of those countries have contributed least to climate change damage, and they are pushing ahead about climate change financing. They have also spoken very loudly and boldly about the reform of multilateral organizations such as the UN, the financial institutions, as well as the WTO. And the messages that they have collectively been putting forward is they've been impacting an impact. Countenance the issue of the process is going to be long-lasting, and it's not going to be easily reversed. So, and I do believe that South Africa's will also north now. Now, yes, it has been said that President Trump will not be there. I don't know completely, but even if he's not there, the G20 summit will go ahead. We will work very hard. Our Minister of International Relations here, Minister Ronald Lamola, is working very hard as he leads our G20 presidency process to have a declaration arrived at. We've been working extremely hard in all the 130 meetings, and there is an emergence of a consensus. And as often happens with these things, the declaration will be only finalized by the leaders when they meet, where we hope that full consensus or sufficient consensus will have been reached. So that's what we're hoping for. The lady from Japan asked whether which other countries have we invited. The G20 has 21 members, 20 countries, including the AU, and of course the regional bloc, which is the EU. And we have invited a number of other countries, the regional heads of all organizations in the world, in Asia, in Latin America, and a number of places. So they are all coming. And we've also invited as partner countries some of the countries that are our immediate neighbors. obviously not all of them, but some of them that are our immediate neighbors. Because Europe is going to be so well represented, we have not been able to extend the invitation to everyone to come to the summit. And so even those that you may well have wanted to come may not be able to come. And there are many other countries that would have wanted to come. So the space and opportunity to talk is quite limited. So we're going to have some 60 heads of countries as well as heads of international organizations, which is quite a big number. And Masha asked what are the key outcomes of our engagement with Malaysia. I guess our key outcome is the rekindling of the relationship between Malaysia and South Africa. Over the years, it has tapered down. So our visit here has rebooted that relationship, and it has put South Africa on the Malaysian business, trade, and economic map once again. And in our own country, we have now put Malaysia on our own economic and trade map once again. So that is a powerful outcome as far as I'm concerned. The Prime Minister will be coming with a 70 business people delegation to South Africa, and he'll have a forum on the sidelines of the G20. And that to us is an important signal, particularly in the way that Malaysia works. When the political leadership gives leadership in a particular direction, the business leadership follows. And we are rather pleased with that. We've also invited Prime Minister Anwar to come to South Africa on an official visit next year. And we expect that the contacts that will now be made during this visit will then lead to contracts between business people. And at government level, we will be able to sign a memoranda of understanding now that we have resolved to engage. The relationship between myself and the Prime Minister is a good one. And we are also using that as a very strong platform to encourage everyone who is a player in the economic field to follow suit. And so therefore, the outcomes are going to be quite huge. And we've also identified areas where we need to focus more attention. For instance, on halal foods, the certification of a number of our businesses to be able to export foods to Malaysia is one of the issues that we're going to look at. And issues of semiconductors that Malaysia is really good at is also going to be something that we focus on. So there is a lot of trading and investment that will go on between Malaysia and South Africa from now going forward. On education, our education or student exchange program will also get into top gear. So we will be able to cooperate also at intelligence level to share information. Defense industries is another area where we said we want to focus on, because Malaysia recognizes South Africa's capabilities when it comes to the defense industry. So we are going to make a great deal of headway when it comes to that. So for that reason, it's been a really good and potentially a profitable visit to Malaysia for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, this brings us to the end of this meeting.
political engagement. Just to say that on Tuesday, the 4th of November, the President will receive the India report that he has commissioned Professor Stiglitz to conduct. So please look out for that report as well as our media release. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, by when do you think the free trade agreement will start discussing? We're going to start immediately.